Season of the Lost is finally here, and as is tradition, I want one of my first videos of the season to be covering the new seasonal activity weapons. So for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the new Awoken themed weapon set for Destiny 2 Season of the Lost. Just like always, we're going to be taking a look at each individual weapon, ranking them from best to worst, discussing how to farm them, going over their god rolls, and really just figuring out if they're worth your time in terms of farming them out. Now before we jump into the video though, I'd just like to ask that if you enjoy the video today, make sure to hit that like button as it really helps me out here on the channel, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content as I'd absolutely love to have you here. Last season we got thousands and thousands of new subscribers, and it's been awesome getting to meet a lot of you guys in the comments. I'm looking forward to taking over YouTube this year, and I can't do it without you. Yeah, you. Looking there all cute and shit watching the video. Go ahead and hit that red button, alright? I'm watching you. Well, whether you hit it or not, I actually don't know, but I'm going to stop wasting your time. Let's go ahead and jump into it, and let's talk about how to farm these weapons, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into each individual weapon at timestamps down below if you want to skip to a specific part of the video. First things first, let's talk about how to get your hands on these new Awoken themed weapons. These weapons are going to come from two main sources, the in chest in the new seasonal activity Astral alignment, or from the prismatic recaster in the helm, as they can be focused through the umbral engram system. Now in order to get these weapons from both of these methods, you're going to need the seasonal currency parallax trajectory, and this stuff will drop randomly from killing ads, doing public events, core activity playlists, and pretty much anything in the game. You can use these to open the in chest during Astral alignment or focus umbrals, but keep in mind that during Astral alignment, the chest at the end will also drop the seasonal armor as well as the weapons. So if you're wanting to just get your hands on the guns, make sure to use your currency to focus the umbrals to save on resources. Now that you know how to get your hands on these weapons, let's go ahead and start talking about the new Stasis hand cannon known as the Vulpecula. Now, taking a look at Vulpecula, this is the newest hand cannon to make its way to Destiny 2, and it brings with it quite a lot of unique traits. First off, and most obviously, the fact that it's a Stasis legendary weapon. Now, Bungie has clarified in the past that these Stasis weapons aren't going to function any differently from other weapons in the sandbox, outside of rolling with their own unique Stasis perks, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, it's also one of the only 180 RPM hand cannons in the game that you can get in the kinetic slot, as it's only going to be competing with Survivor's Epitaph and the Seraph Revolver. And lastly, aside from the Stasis perks that it has, it features many of the Season 15's new perks that aren't locked to Stasis only weapons. So taking a look at this weapon's perks for PvE, we have a lot of good options. In the first perk column, we have three major standout picks in the forms of Ensemble, Shoot to Loot, and of course Outlaw. Now, Ensemble is probably my favorite of the new perks this season, and it basically says that as long as you're standing near allies, your handling and reload speeds are buffed across the board. If you thought that Rapid Hit was just a better version and lazier version of Outlaw, then Ensemble is quite literally the laziest reload perk in the game, while also being very effective. When running things like seasonal activities or GM content, you're always going to be near allies. Therefore, you'll always have this buff active, which I think is really cool. Of course, the downside of this is being if your entire team gets slaughtered around you, but we don't really talk about that, so let's move on. Next up, we have the perk Shoot to Loot, which says that shooting an ammo brick will automatically pick it up and reload your weapons from reserves. I can't tell you how many times I've ran a raid or GM that had heavy ammo across the room that I desperately needed, but I couldn't get to. Now, if I'm pinned down by a champion and can't run to the center of the room to grab ammo, I'll just peek out, shoot the ammo brick, which will load my rocket automatically, then peek around the corner and burst down the champion like the chump he is. Definitely a really cool concept for a perk, and I can't wait to give it a try in master content. Lastly, we have Outlaw in the first column, and Outlaw is, well, Outlaw. Headshot kills boost reload speed and all that jazz. Now, taking a look at the second column, we pretty much have bangers across the board. We have perks like Adagio, Harmony, Multi-Kill Clip, as well as Explosive Payload. Now, Adagio is a new perk, and it's basically if Kill Clip and Rampage had a baby. What it says is that when you get a kill, you receive a damage buff, but at the cost of some of your rate of fire. And for reference, when I got a kill with this perk, it basically reduced my RPM from 180 to 140 on this hand cannon specifically. I really like this perk overall, as it's similar to Kill Clip in terms of its damage increase, which is only 5% below at 25%, but doesn't require a reload, making it like Rampage, just without needing to get kills for more stacks to actually get that damage buff. So as you get kills with this perk active, instead of actually getting stacks, it's just going to automatically refresh the buff timer that you activate, and that timer is going to be roughly 5 to 6 seconds of that 25% damage increase. Now the next perk that we have in this column is going to be Harmony, which says kills with other weapons are going to boost this weapon's damage for a short time, and it's basically like Master of Arms from Recluse. With this perk specifically though, it's going to give around a 15% damage buff for 7 seconds, and it can be pretty fun as you compare it with Salvager's Salvo for ad clear, and then clean up anything else that's remaining with your primary that'll now have an increased damage amount thanks to your previous kills. And moving on, we also have multi-kill clip and explosive payload, which are pretty self-explanatory. Multi-kill clip is just kill clip with increasing stacks, and explosive payload is a flat 11% damage to all headshots and 15% to body shots. As far as the best role on this weapon goes for PvE, I'd use something like Ensemble explosive payload or Shoot to Loot explosive payload for master content. And for more casual activities, you can run Outlaw, as well as Adagio, Harmony, multi-kill clip, all that jazz. For PvP, this weapon obviously has great perks like Tunnel Vision, Killing Wind, and Outlaw in the first slot, but interestingly enough, also has perks like Headstone in the second column, which is basically a stasis version of Dragonfly. This can mix very well with stasis builds inside of PvP, and PvE for that matter, so it's definitely a perk to think about. And if you want to go with the classic Survivor's Epitaph role, you can always go with Outlaw multi-kill clip, and that should serve you well. Moving on from the Vulpecula though, let's talk about the newest bow this season, the Wolftone Draw. Now, when it comes to bows, for the most part, there aren't many interesting things to say about them, but this one right here is pretty awesome. Wolftone Draw is a precision frame bow that's arc energy, and can roll many of the unique perks that we talked about earlier, while also being a much easier weapon to obtain compared to its arc counterpart Arsenic Bite. Now for PvE, Wolftone Draw can roll with your usual Archer's Tempo in the first slot, as well as having Shoot to Loot and Ensemble available if you'd like. And in the second slot, it has perks like Harmony, Cornered, interestingly enough, as well as Adagio and Frenzy. Unfortunately, unlike Arsenic Bite, it can't get Explosive Head for things like Overload Bow or just that general, damage increase for Nightfalls, but it is a much easier to obtain bow overall because it's not a world loot pool weapon, so I wanted to put it high on the list for those of you guys that are looking for a specific element, as Wolftone basically fills that void for a pretty easily farmable arc bow. Now, for PvE, I'd probably rock this bad boy with Archer's Tempo Frenzy, and for PvP, well, I'm pretty sure that Archer's Tempo and Harmony will be a pretty good choice, as you could always get a kill with a special weapon and then swap over to your bow for a sizable damage increase on your next target, so it might be a role worth chasing, so keep your eyes peeled. It's not one that I've used personally, but for PvP it definitely sounds like it could be very good. Now, moving on over from the Wolftone Draw, let's talk about the newest auto rifle in Destiny, the Chrysura Melo. And this weapon right here, it's pretty unique. Chrysura Melo is one of the only 2 non-sunset 360 RPM autos in the game right now, and unlike its counterpart Age-Old Bond, this bad boy can get some nasty perks that make it perform very well inside of PvE. Taking a look at its perks, we have things like Outlaw, Fourth Times, and Ensemble in the first column, as well as multi-kill clip, Frenzy, and Harmony in the second. I was super lucky and bagged myself an Ensemble multi-kill clip roll, and let me tell you guys, I can't believe I'm simping for a 360 right now, but I absolutely love this thing. Ensemble of course helps out with these slower reload speeds, but multi-kill clip is what makes this thing shine, as its 50% damage increase at 3 stacks is just beautiful for this weapon's already heavy hitting bullets. Of course, this roll isn't going to be the best for master content, as you'd probably rather have Frenzy just for the constant upkeep, but as a weapon to use in regular raids, dungeons, and just activities inside of Destiny in general, it's a really fun one and a breath of fresh air. For my PvP homies out there, by the way, you could probably rock Heating Up or Outlaw in the first column, and Multi-Kill Clip or Harmony in the second. Now, moving on over from the auto rifle, let's go ahead and talk a bit about the shotgun Fractethyst. Now, Fractethyst is a precision frame shotgun, but before you get all excited, it isn't a slug sadly, which makes its PvE usability drop almost all the way down to 0. It's a stasis weapon similar to the hand cannon earlier, but I'm not really seeing any stasis exclusive perks on this thing. Taking a look at the perks in question, for PvE, we're not really seeing much good here. We have perks like Dual Loader, Ensemble, and Lead from Gold in the first column, while also having Harmony, Adagio, and Trench Barrel in the second. Unfortunately, non-slug shotguns in PvE are pretty trash overall, so I wouldn't recommend using this thing at all for PvE content. For PvP, however, this is one of those shotties that can roll quick draw, so having a roll like Full Choke, Accurized, Slide Shot / Quick Draw, and Opening Shot could prove really deadly for you inside a Crucible, so keep that in mind. I'm not really a massive PvP guy anymore, but if I had to guess, this weapon probably isn't going to dethrone any of the shotgun kings in PvP. I'll go ahead and put up a little bit of a graph showcasing how this weapon stacks up against other shotguns of a similar archetype, but if I had to guess, this weapon right here probably isn't going to find itself at the top of the food chain, but I'll let my PvP homies decide that for themselves. Moving on over from the shotgun of the video, let's talk about the Awoken fusion rifle, the Iota Draconis. Iota Draconis dick across your face. Now, as I'm sure many of you can already tell the second I said fusion rifle, you can probably tell I don't really have much positive things to say about this weapon, and you're pretty much right. Listen, I know that Bungie did the whole fusion rifle rework and all that jazz for the season, but I still don't see why on earth I would use a fusion rifle when options like snipers, slug shotties, and blinding nade GLs are available. I don't even know what role these weapons are supposed to fill in the sandbox, and that's a problem. That being said, Iota is a high impact frame and unfortunately doesn't roll with one of the only good PvE perks a fusion can have, Reservoir Burst, which is pretty unfortunate because this weapon is solar, giving it Warmind Cell potential. Even then though, that really wouldn't make this weapon all that usable in my eyes. You can take a look at the perks and decide for yourself if it's worth using, but I can't really recommend it whatsoever. For PvP though, fusions have always had their own place and have always been decent, and if you know how to use a fusion, you can definitely get to the top of the leaderboard. So we have perks like Surplus or Under Pressure in the first column, as well as Cornered, Harmony, Kickstart, and High Impact in the second. This weapon has some really good PvP perks, like really good, but its PvE potential is 100% down in the dumps. Maybe with the fusion rifle seasonal mod it might be decent, but I try to judge weapons based off themselves and not a temporary mod that won't be around forever. I probably will end up reviewing this mod sometime later in the season though to see just how good it is, but I don't want to contribute that mod to basically saying how good this weapon is, because in future seasons without that mod it probably wouldn't be all that good at all. Now moving on, for the last weapon of the video, we have ourselves the Canis Major Heavy Grenade Launcher, or the Canis. Again, kinda with fusion rifles, you can kinda sorta tell what we're getting into when I said heavy grenade launcher. However, the Major does seem to have one redeeming quality over other heavy GLs. For starters, it's a rapid fire frame GL specifically, and also has the solar element allowing it to create Warmind cells, but where it truly shines though, is in its ability to roll with Vorpal Weapon in the second column, which I don't believe I've seen that much from heavy grenade launchers. Unfortunately though, when it comes down to using a heavy GL or rocket launcher, 9 times out of 10 I'm going to be running the rocket launcher, as I just think its burst damage capabilities are much more useful, as well as the weapon's overall ease of use whenever I'm using it at a long distance. Now, this is to not say that this weapon's terrible, as it can roll with good perks like Field Prep and Vorpal Weapon, which is a fantastic roll overall by the way, but I'd just rather use rockets, which would kind of push this weapon's usability kinda into the nowhere zone. Yeah, you can of course rock fun perks like, Clown Cartridge and Chain Reaction, but why use heavy ammo on a gun build when you can use Salvager Salvo instead for special ammo? The Major is lacking a real place in the sandbox in my opinion, and that's why it's last on today's video. I wouldn't say that it's bad in any way, but it's just not really a choice for me inside of any of the PvE content I play, so I can't necessarily recommend it, but for those of you guys out there that like heavy GLs, you might like this weapon because of the option of Vorpal. It'll make it pretty decent on champions and bosses, and who knows, it might actually be a pretty decent pick overall, and I might swap over to it later in the season. But for now, probably gonna stick to the royal entry. But guys, that is gonna do it for today's video. We went ahead and went over all of the Awoken themed weapons for Destiny Season of the Lost, went over how to get them, went over their god rolls, whether they were worth farming, and everything in between. Honestly, I kind of like this weapon set. At least half of the weapon set, of course. You know, the first 3 weapons that we covered, between the hand cannon, the bow, and the auto rifle, those are all some awesome choices. Of course, once we started getting into the shotgun territory and then the fusion and the heavy GL, kind of dropped off in terms of how hype I was because of, you know, no slug shotgun. Obviously, fusions aren't all that good in PvE, and of course, heavy GLs are pretty much replaced by rockets and special GLs, so those weapons aren't really all that hype. But whenever it comes to the hand cannon, definitely a pretty big fan of the Vulpecula because, of course, we did get that hand cannon buff. This weapon has a lot of really good perks, a lot of really good new perks, plus it's stasis themed. Of course, the bow is very nice because of the new perks, the fact that it's a farmable arc bow, and the auto rifle. Still, to this day, the Chrysura Melo, I really can't believe I like it as much as I do. You know, multi-kill clip on this thing really turned a 360 RPM from being a meme into something that's actually pretty damn useful in day-to-day PvE. So I'm a pretty damn big fan of the auto rifle as well, and you know, there's just some really cool guns in this weapon set overall, but I am kind of disappointed in the latter half, at least as far as PvE is concerned. But I really did enjoy making this video. Of course, you guys know the god roll guides and this style of videos is basically my main bread and butter, and of course you guys love these videos as well. If you did watch up into this point, I definitely really do appreciate it. Normally we comment a word for those of you guys that watch all the way to the end of the video, but we're gonna comment a sentence this time. If you guys did watch up into this point, comment, "Yeah, Joey, but did you see how thick Savathun was?" And you know, if you guys comment that, I'll respond and I'll talk about her thickness with you, and we can spark up a conversation, maybe get a coffee, you know, talk about the thickness over maybe some lunch sometime or something like that in the comment section, and basically just confuse everyone else that's reading the comments. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. This is my first video of Season of the Lost, and I'm so excited to be creating more going into the season. But guys, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.